Adrian, he was a sociopath. He said that I could never leave him. He controlled how I looked and what I wore. Then I was controlling when I left the house. And eventually, what I thought.
Let me help you.
You can't help me.
The Invisible Man is about a woman who is trying to get away from her abusive husband. I like that this movie doesn't show the husband's face right away. We mostly see him cast in shadow, and then when we do see the scene where he's freaking out, we don't see his face very clearly. Then we meet a friend of Elisabeth Moss's character. And this guy is a police officer. He has a daughter. We don't know the exact length of their relationship, if they know each other from the past. We don't know how long they've been friends for. But when we see him trying to guide her along in her life and make her get over the fear of her controlling husband, I feel for their relationship and I understand it. With the daughter character, we see some bonding happening with them, so I feel this movie takes its time with these characters and builds emotional connections. As an audience member, I feel connected to the characters just as much as they are connected to each other. I'm comparing this movie to Paranormal Activity during the first half. I was saying to myself, okay, so the husband is obsessed with his wife. He doesn't want her to leave him. So he's going through all of this trouble to have this device that can make him invisible. And then he's going to do some Paranormal Activity crap to her by walking on sheets, just making her feel paranoid and making her appear crazy in front of everybody else. And so I was saying, is he going to kill her? Why is he taking his time with her? Why can't we just get to it? So at first, I was a bit taken back by the execution of the first half. The story really picks up for me once all of Elisabeth Moss's friends and her sister think she's crazy. They start doubting her, and in a realistic situation, you would feel like her friends and her sister, you would look at her and say, hey, your husband is dead, you're crazy, take some medication. So I like how Elisabeth Moss acted in this movie. She was very believable, and in a realistic situation, she would appear to be crazy.
He has figured out a way to be invisible. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He's not dead. I just can't see him.
This bitch is crazy. This bitch is crazy.
But seeing as how this is a movie and it's about a man who can turn invisible, we know that she's telling the truth. And in similar horror movies, you always have to have this situation. You always have to have something where, as an audience, we know what's really going on versus the characters in the movie who are surrounding the main character. They have no clue. And I like the way this movie plays up on that. As the story progresses, then I start to understand why the husband is doing what he's doing. Maybe, because at first it seems, okay, he's just goofing around, and then once we learn what his motivation is, he just wants to torture her. He just wants to drive her crazy. He wants her to go insane. He wants her to ruin her life, and it's working. The thing that I really like about this movie is when you look at it from a realistic standpoint, you can see that it has taken cues from modern relationships where you have one spouse trying to control the other spouse, And in most cases like that, when one spouse leaves the other person, the spouse that is controlling normally tries to ruin that other person's life and make them look bad in front of other people. They just have this obsession. So during the second portion, it's finally revealed what the husband wants. He learns that Elisabeth Moss's character is pregnant, and so he doesn't want to kill her. So I like that element that they put in here, where we know she's not in any real danger, but we know that her husband is crazy just through Elisabeth Moss's expressions and how she delivers her dialogue and how she knows for a fact that her husband is out there watching her and he's trying to torture her. She delivers a performance that is 100% believable. So when we see all the moments where Elisabeth Moss is going crazy, her friends start doubting her, we learn the real reason why the husband's keeping her alive, why he's toying with her, it all makes sense, and it all ramps up to 100 during the final portion of this movie, because in the final portion, that's when it turns into this sci-fi, suspenseful action kind of movie, where we have this scene where Elisabeth Moss fights back in the police station and then finds out about her husband's invisible suit. She finds a way to manipulate it, and then his suit starts malfunctioning, so now his cover's blown, but you can't see his face, so you don't know who it is. It's amazing, and I love it, and then the music ramps up, and it gets my adrenaline pumping, and it's great. So there's a mixture of different things going on here, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And then the beautiful part is the way it ends, when it kind of feels like Kill Bill Volume 2, where Uma Thurman finally sits down with Bill, and after all this action stuff, you think we're going to have this big battle after all of these shenanigans taking place, but no, they have a sit down at the end, and they have a conversation, and it feels like a realistic situation. I thought the ending to this movie was perfectly executed. I like how it felt realistic, and then when you implement the suit, it has that sci-fi touch to it, and it works. It all makes sense. And if someone else were to take a hold of this and try to make this work, it probably would have came off as silly. But there are these nice elements in here that make this thing feel perfectly constructed, and it doesn't feel stupid, which is weird. Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell got his first big break with the Saw movie, the first Saw movie. Then he also directed a movie a while back called Upgrade, which is an action movie. And now he's directing this movie. And I didn't expect much directing-wise because I saw Upgrade and I thought it was fine. But with this is on a skillful level of craftsmanship. Opening sequence feels like I'm watching Gone Girl. It's lavish. The set design is great. The music is amazing. The slow build to this is suspenseful. There's a lot of suspense at the very beginning of this movie. It's slow, but it's building the characters. It's building the story, and I thought Leigh Whannell constructed this movie to perfection. All of the elements at play in here are absolutely fantastic, and it makes for an amazing cinematic experience. And then when he implements all of the action stuff with the suit, when you look at the story here and the progression of it, it works. It all makes sense. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is silly, why is this here? It works, and I'm flabbergasted of how amazing it was, because the music, the cinematography, the directing, the set design, the suspense, the slow build, it all works. It ramps everything up. It starts off very, very slow, but it builds the characters and the relationships and the audience attachment to them. So then when the shit finally goes down, it goes from 0 to 100, and it is amazing. Elisabeth Moss carries this movie. She does a very good job with her performance. She's believable. All of the dialogue that comes out of her mouth is believable. The expression she has on her face is 100% genuine. It's believable. All of the other actors in here, her main friend is believable. I wish we would have gotten a bit more details about their relationship and how they were friends for so long. And when I first saw this guy on screen, I really wanted him to get in a fist fight with the husband character to see, just a showdown match take place. And we did get it, and it's a horrifying moment because the music ramps up and it looks like a horror movie. It's great, like all these elements at play here, and you feel for the characters when stuff happens to them, because like I said at the beginning, it takes its time to build the situation, to build the suspense, to build the tension, to have you establish a connection with these characters so that by the end, when the shit goes down, you feel it, and the music just ramps it up, dials that thing up to 100, and it works. Overall, my verdict for this movie is it's great. This is a great movie. All of the elements at play here, from the directing to Elisabeth Moss's performance to the side characters and their relationships to Elisabeth Moss, the husband in here and how Leigh Whannell crafted the husband character where we don't see his face at the beginning, and then at the end when he is trying to play off as this loving husband and I'm sorry routine, we see his face, so we see him in a different light, and we were like, oh, do we want to believe him? Do we want to believe Elisabeth Moss because she knows him more than we do? So I like how this movie is constructed, and then the musical score in this movie dials everything up to 100. It really hits home. After the movie was long over, I was watching the credits, and the music just sucked me right in. I would listen to this music while working out. This is a great soundtrack. There's great directing, great cinematography, great set design. The story, slow, yes, but it starts off very suspenseful, establishing the characters and the situation, and then you understand what's going on. Then it introduces these horror sci-fi action elements which work perfectly, perfect transition in this movie, and then towards the end it ramps up even more, and then by the very end we have the confrontation and it works. So I feel like this movie, it takes a realistic approach towards relationships, and it also introduces some sci-fi elements. So it's a suspenseful movie. I would say it's more suspenseful than anything. It's suspenseful. It's got action in it. It's got some horror in it. The music is great. The acting is great. There are a whole bunch of elements in this movie that work. The only negative thing I will say here is at the very end, you see Elisabeth Moss, and they could set it up for a sequel. And I don't know where that would go. I would watch it because I thought this movie was great, but I really would like for this thing to be a one and done, because the way it ends, it's kind of open-ended, but it's also its own thing. It doesn't establish a sequel, but it could be a sequel because she still has the suit by the end. She doesn't destroy it. So you can make up your own mind about that, and when she exhales at the end, it's like she's finally free, and I felt that after you see all of the turmoil she's been going throughout the movie. So yeah, man, this movie's great. No wonder why it's number one, and a lot of other people like it because, yeah, it has everything you want. It has suspense, it has horror, great acting, great music, great cinematography, great directing. This is a great movie. What more can I say? That's all I have to say. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.